at the Washington Post this week, we saw some pretty dramatic changes in their staffing with what seems like the latest purge over there. A number of really high-profile names have all either announced their exit or have just quietly headed for the doors. We got some new reporting in the Status newsletter this week that Adam O'Neill, the new Washington Post opinion editor, has started his tenure there with office hours, allowing folks on the opinion desk to schedule time to come meet with him. It's sort of unusual way of approaching the job, but he's kind of had an unorthodox start to his time there altogether. You might recall that he announced he was joining the paper with a direct-to-camera selfie video that he posted on X. No press release from the paper, no grand announcement of we have, found the esteemed editor to carry the flag forward here. It's all been a little unusual. And now we're hearing Adam has started his position there at the Post. And with these meetings with members of the staff, he's had some quiet conversations with them, a bit of which you heard about this week. And I think sort of offering some clues as to what it is that he has in store for changes at the desk there.
Well, I don't think anyone knows what he has in store. I mean, I think the only thing that's been really telegraphed is when Jeff Bezos abruptly emailed the Washington Post staffers and said that they are going to be now focused in the opinion pages on promoting economic freedom and personal liberties, which is a very broad mandate. I mean, a lot of things could fall under those categories. If you think about personal liberties in particular, as they're under assault in American life because of the president, I mean, a number of things you could write about that fall under promoting personal liberties, whether it's, it could range from the way immigrants are being treated in this country to what the president is doing to Harvard. I mean, there's a number of different things you could write about under that banner. So it's unclear, I think, what exactly the Washington Post opinion pages are for. And there hasn't been much insight from the new editor, Adam O'Neill, in these conversations. Like these writers only get told basically what they don't want, not really what they want to stand for. So anyway, they had these conversations this week, people that signed up for them. Strangely, I think it is strange that Adam O'Neill came in and instead of asking the writers to meet with him, basically they have to sign up to meet with him, which is sort of unorthodox. So they've been signing up to meet with him. They've been going into his office, which I was told overlooks McPherson Square. Apologies, it apparently overlooks Franklin Square. McPherson Square is a block away. Although I will say for the DC people, it's strange that the McPherson Square subway stop is in Franklin Square. So it is a little bit convoluted. But
this has been a huge overnight scandal here at Status with many readers in DC.
Many readers have emailed
letting us know we got
the
this
Washington
wrong.
Post overlooks. I still wonder, he has a corner office on the 8th floor is what I'm told. I'm still wondering if you can maybe see McPherson Square as well. But regardless, we digress. They've been having these conversations. And the interesting thing from these conversations is that Adam has been using what I've been told is sort of sounds like HR vetted language, telling certain people that their column doesn't really fit into the future of what the Washington Post opinion pages are going to be for. And so he's been effectively encouraging them to take these buyouts, which are set to expire July 31st. And in the last week, 2 weeks, I guess, you've seen an astonishing exodus from the Washington Post opinion pages. Jonathan Capehart left, Philip Bump left, Catherine Rampell announced she was leaving. A number of others have all announced they're leaving. And these are the people that have really defined the Washington Post opinion pages over the last decade or so. And they're all just taking buyouts. And then a couple others are moving to the newsroom. It's unrelated, but there's this incredible drain happening at the Washington Post opinion pages. It seems like it's not just about, normal housekeeping. I think when a new manager comes in, maybe they bring in one or two other people or whatever. This is about completely resetting the slate. And it's not even only occurring on the talent side of things. It's also occurring on the editing side of things, where top editors like Steven Stromberg and a couple others, like they're all set to depart. And so everyone, that I'm talking to, they're wondering, what is the Washington Post opinion page going to be? And if I had to guess, I would say that Bezos wants this paper, the editorial board, to be conservative and probably a little more Trump friendly, but they can't say that. And so I think they maybe are trying to use code words like pro economic freedom, pro personal liberties, which I think he might associate with libertarian values. Again, though, even if you're a libertarian these days, Trump's not a libertarian. Trump's really trying to rule like an authoritarian. And so you're still going to have an editorial board that's probably at odds with him on almost every issue.
Yeah, it feels like this is a way for Bezos to try to stake out some kind of safe high ground with libertarianism at the center of it versus, overtly saying we want it to be more conservative, more MAGA friendly, more culture war,
Mm-hmm.
in that vein in which you've seen almost all of right-wing media bend in recent years with Donald Trump. And it's sort of like a similar appeal concept, I think, to the way others perceived Barry Weiss's The Free Press as a sort of libertarian flag there.
That's what they all want these days. They want Barry Weiss, they want free press, they want anti-woke, they want like pro, economic liberty. Although Donald Trump's trade war, I think, definitely clashes with that, but that's what they want. And I think, what was really interesting, John, as I was reporting this, it was flagged to me that Monica Hesse, I don't know if I'm saying her last name correctly, but she writes about gender and society for the Washington Post. That position was one of the only positions, to my understanding, that Bezos personally requested be formed at the Washington Post. It was during the height of the Me Too era, and it was his idea to have someone writing about gender and society. And so they tapped her for this role, and she's been writing about that ever since. Earlier this year, she was on the news side. She was a news columnist. They decided that she was, I guess, more fit for the opinion pages, so they moved her over to the opinion pages. And she was one of the people that Adam O'Neill, the new editor of the opinion pages, told doesn't really fit into the future for the editorial pages. And I think that really shows two things. One is how much Bezos has apparently changed over the last 5 years, where he was someone who wanted to have a writer specifically writing about gender issues in the Me Too movement, to someone who apparently doesn't want that position, maybe even at the paper anymore. And it also shows, obviously, this massive transformation of the Washington Post, where, again, she was a celebrated writer there and is now effectively being told, you should probably take this buyout because your column does no longer aligns with what we're going to be doing here in the opinion pages.
Yeah, I sort of get the feeling that, to me, that signals that Bezos is somewhere difficult to sort of peg on like on the political charts, where just years ago he was riding the wave with his newspaper saying, this is a very important issue in America, when America was out, coming out and saying these things, right? We had a reckoning around racial issues, around diversity, and around that culture. And, you saw Bezos also really lean into his companies taking a hard stand on climate change and green energy. But now you see that sort of all melt away so quickly. Is that just him being like politically expedient and a shrewd businessman who has a large financial empire that he runs? And this paper is, look, the size of the Washington Post, while it has a meaningful impact on on journalism and on the news media and on how Americans perceive what is going on in Washington, like financially, it's a drop in this, vast bucket that Bezos controls. And all of these changes signal to me that, above all else, he is like a politically expedient operator here. That more than anything, he is looking at like what is going to help my my economic and business empire as a bottom line more than anything. And the question that I have, though, is like, seeing these really vast sweeping changes at the Post opinion desk and the paper as a whole, right? Like there's been an exodus across the board, and outlets like The Atlantic have been scooping up, really talented, well-sourced, great writers and reporters in recent days. But who is going to be the audience for this at the Washington Post that is going to continue their subscription and say, oh yeah, I used to feel that way too, but I've also significantly changed my views?
It makes no sense. I mean, I feel like, well, I think a couple things happened. One, I think foam party Jeff Bezos was maybe a little different. I feel like the COVID pandemic radicalized a lot of these business executives and changed them, and they became susceptible to the stuff that Barry Weiss and company are selling, which is this anti-woke. Your employees are kind of whiny babies, and you need to really whip them into shape, and they need to come to the office, and we don't want to hear about them whining. They should be happy they have a job. I feel like something shifted in the minds of business executives during the COVID pandemic. And I think Jeff Bezos certainly falls into that category. And obviously it's politically expedient now to be a little bit more on the pro-Trump side of things. But what's interesting is that point you made, which is that from a purely business perspective, there's this huge void in the market right now for a major news organization, I think, to say, while everyone else is bending the knee to Donald Trump, we are standing firm. We are not doing that. We are holding his administration to account. And we're going to be proud about that. We're going to have our chest out, and we're not going to take anything from this administration. And I feel like that would actually rally an audience behind the Washington Post. The whole democracy dies in darkness thing would actually mean something, and people would be proud to be subscribing to this paper, especially in this moment, because you're seeing every other news organization, or at least I shouldn't say every other, but a lot of other news organizations soften their coverage, water it down, and in some cases overtly bend the knee, like you're seeing, over at Paramount. If the Washington Post were to do the opposite, I feel like it would actually be a very smart business strategy, because people would want to subscribe to that paper. Just like you're seeing at The Atlantic, where Jeffrey Goldberg has made it very clear this isn't a partisan issue. This is about standing up for what's right and wrong. This is about being pro-democracy and standing up for the traditions that made America great, the principles this country has been built on. And that's working apparently really well for The Atlantic, right? They're able to hire more writers. They're doing quite well. I feel like if the Washington Post were to pick up that mantle and do the same thing, their business would be doing better. But instead, actually, every move that Jeff Bezos has made, he's supposed to be the smart businessman or whatever, just from every move that he has made has actually chased away subscribers. And it's made people less likely to subscribe to the Washington Post. So from a purely business, forget the editorial rights and wrongs, even though this would be the right thing to do. Forget that. Just if you're selfish and you want the business of the Washington Post to do really well, this is obviously what you would do. But I think in the greater context of Bezos' empire, it's probably he doesn't care if the Washington Post flails a little bit. He'd rather have his contracts for Blue Origin and his Amazon contracts and deals. And so that's actually perhaps why he's okay letting the Washington Post not do so well. And I think that's sad, and that's not a good steward for this story newspaper. Thank you for watching Power Lines. For more analysis and insight, subscribe to our YouTube channel down below, like this video, and you can watch more of us right over here.